For every Roblox game that is criminally underrated, there are also games that are extremely overrated, and today we'll be covering all of them. Starting with the platform's biggest disappointment, Steal Brainrot. Released on May 16, 2025, Steal Brainrot is a game that seemingly appeared out of nowhere and instantly took over Roblox. At first glance, it looks like just another low-effort dopamine cash grab, because that's exactly what it is. Within days, it exploded, hundreds of thousands of plays flooded in, and on July 5th, it hit a whopping 3.3 million concurrent players, officially cementing itself as one of the fastest growing games in Roblox history. Yet, despite all the success, many consider it as one of the most overrated games the platform has ever seen. The gameplay loop itself couldn't be simpler. Players start by buying brainrots to generate cash, but to speed things up, you have to start stealing brainrots directly from other players to make even more, which is where the problem begins. The name alone has already become a meme. To many players, the entire concept feels ridiculous. Not only does the game teach kids to steal, but it also rewards them for it. After stealing enough brainrots, players can then rebirth, giving them access to buy gear from the shop that is meant to help them defend their brainrots. But instead of using it as intended, players quickly discovered ways to abuse this gear by using it to trap people forever, until they're forced to reset or leave the game completely. The entire gameplay loop is built around stealing and trolling. And somehow that formula worked. Despite how brain-rotted the game is, it quickly found an audience made up mostly of younger players. But behind the scenes, things only got worse. Because Steal Brainrot has already built one of the most toxic communities on the platform. Since there's no official trading system, players head to the Discord server, which is filled with scammers, where they almost always end up getting scammed. As one player stated, players love it because of the brainrots, but its community is the worst. And just after a few weeks of launch, the game was bought by two big studios, the same group behind Grow a Garden, Blade Ball, Fish, and many other games. But Dubik didn't just buy Steal Brainrot by chance. They saw exactly what the game was and knew it would print money. Now they've added another brainrot-fueled game to their collection. Roblox was once a platform that rewarded creativity. Now it rewards the lowest effort gameplay loops, and Steal Brainrot perfectly reflects how Roblox has transformed. If that made you lose faith in Roblox, the next game will bring it back, and that game is none other than Blocktails. But before we get into it, I just wanted to say that it would really mean a lot if you could subscribe and help me get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month. Blocktails was released on February 23rd, 2024 and is a multiplayer turn-based RPG developed by a studio called Spaceman Moonbase. The game was inspired by games like Paper Mario 64 and Earthbound. Blocktails puts players into battles that require timing, strategy, and actual thought, something that's rare on Roblox these days. The game is set in the year 2010, where the player is sent back in time and is required to collect classic Roblox swords in order to save Builderman. These swords are based on real Roblox gear from that era, resulting in a nostalgia trip wrapped in mechanics and thoughtful storytelling. But what truly makes Blocktails special is how different it is from other games. There's no pay to win, no game passes, and it's 100% free to play with zero pressure to spend anything. That alone makes it one of the most genuine games on the entire platform. What's even crazier is how little marketing the game had. It didn't explode because of ads or events. It blew up because it was just that good. YouTubers like Creecraft and Sketch eventually made videos on it, giving the game some great exposure. But for the most part, its rise came almost entirely from word of mouth. One player would call it underrated, then another, and another, until everyone was spreading the same thing, turning a quiet passion project into a growing powerhouse. Another big part of the growth came from how the game delivers its content. The game is released in chapters, or as the developers call them, demos. Each demo focuses on a new storyline and a new sword, with its own boss fights, puzzles, and areas. And each time one drops, the game spikes in popularity. The latest update, Demo 4, pushed the game to over 160,000 concurrent players, its highest peak yet. But that success comes with a downside, because the game is so story-driven that there's not much replayability once you finish the demos. So in between updates, the game can feel completely dead. Players beat the chapter, then disappear until the next one drops. However, many players argue that Blocktails isn't underrated anymore, and they have a point. After YouTubers covering it and the game making a breakout after Demo 4, it's definitely gained recognition. Going from under 1,000 to 8,000 consistent plays feels like massive growth. But in reality, 8,000 for this quality is insulting. Games like Brookhaven and Grow a Garden pull millions of plays with a fraction of Block Tales' quality. A game this good should dominate the front page every day, but unfortunately it doesn't. While Block Tales proves that passion can create a masterpiece, the next game did something that no other Roblox game had ever dared to, and for that, many now call it one of the most overrated games on the platform. Inspired by the anime One Piece, Blox Fruits is an RPG game where players collect fruits, swords, and take on bosses to grind. At one point, it was considered the golden standard of anime games on Roblox, and for a while it lived up to that reputation. The game peaked at 2.8 million concurrent plays, racked up 52 billion visits, and became one of the biggest titles the platform had ever seen. But despite all the fame, things eventually took a turn. You see, Blox Fruits didn't actually have a bad reputation until 2023. That's when the developers started promoting Update 20, an update that was hyped like it would completely transform the game. Players were promised a full Second C redesign, reworks for the dragon and control fruits, and a long list of quality of life features that would take the game to the next level. But the wait was painful. Players waited almost a full year for Update 20 to arrive, and when it finally did, none of the major promises were delivered. The Second C wasn't reworked, and the dragon and control fruits were nowhere to be found. Still, the developers reassured players it would arrive in Update 20 Part 2, so players waited once again. But when Part 2 finally dropped, most of the content was still missing. The community had finally had enough. After months of silence and delays, fans turned on the developers, calling them lazy, dishonest, and completely out of touch with their own player base. And yet, things only got worse, because in 2024, the long-awaited Dragonfruit rework was finally released. But instead of upgrading the existing Dragonfruits, the developers pulled one of the greediest moves in Roblox history. Rather than upgrading the Dragonfruit players already owned, the developers took it away from everyone, even those who bought the permanent version for 2,600 Robux. In return, players were given a dragon token, which only gave them a discount on the new version, but the new dragon costed 5,000 Robux, which is nearly double the price that the players paid for. So even with the dragon token, the price only lowered to 2,600 Robux. To put it simply, everyone was forced to buy it again, making the full cost nearly $50 for a single fruit. And to make things even worse, for 2 full days, players had no idea if they'd get their old dragon back. There was no announcement, just silence. During that time, many players panicked and bought the new version of the fruit, thinking it was the only way to get it back. Then days later, the developers finally stepped in, fixed the issue, and gave everyone their old dragons back. But by then, the damage had already been done. A lot of players believe this wasn't a mistake, and think the developers waited on purpose, just long enough to make money off repurchases before stepping in to look like heroes. As one player put it, crazy how Blox Fruits players are just now realizing that the devs are greedy and don't care about their players. But while Blox Fruits was busy destroying their reputation, the next game proves that sometimes the most underrated gems are hiding in plain sight. Developed by Boggio, Phighting is a third-person hero shooter that runs as smooth as butter. But what makes this game special isn't just its carefully crafted classes or characters, or even its incredible soundtracks that have players saying the music alone is worth playing for. It's the fact that they've created all this while hardly monetizing the game at all. Despite its high quality, Phighting is massively overlooked. After 3 years, the game has only 44 million visits, which is extremely low for its quality. This leaves us wondering, what's stopping it from blowing up? The answer sits within how the Roblox algorithm works, as it doesn't promote games with low monetization, no matter how polished they are. Even a game like Phighting, which is polished to perfection, often gets overlooked. Every single character has custom movements, abilities, animations, and even lore. These aren't just generic characters thrown together, they are all unique with backstories and even cinematics, all designed with purpose, contributing to the world building of the game. Similar to what other games like Overwatch used to offer, the skill ceiling is incredibly high, with mechanics that take hours to master, making it a genuinely competitive experience that rewards skill and strategy. Players can pick from 3 roles: melee, ranged, and support, each offering a unique experience. The quality is so exceptional that sometimes you just forget you're playing Roblox. And just like Block Tales, there's an insane amount of references to old Roblox throughout the game, including a remake of Roblox HQ and sword fights on the Heights maps. Players have described the game as what Roblox developers should strive to make, because everything just fits together like puzzle pieces, forming an experience that feels both nostalgic and revolutionary at the same time. But while Phighting poured their heart and soul into their game, the next game on the list blew up overnight by doing the exact opposite. And that game is none other than Grow a Garden. Grow a Garden is a multiplayer farm simulator that didn't just dominate Roblox, it shattered world records. Because on June 21st, 2025, it peaked at 21.3 million concurrent players, making it the most played game not just on Roblox, but in all of gaming. And yet, for some players, it's nothing more than an overrated farming simulator. But to understand how it got this big, we need to look at the strategies they use to keep players hooked. At its core, Grow a Garden is simple. Players start by buying seeds to grow crops. Then they can harvest it and sell it for shekels, the in-game currency. That's the entire gameplay loop, and somehow it's kept millions of players logging in every single day. One of the main reasons that keep players coming back is the offline progression. Your crops keep growing even when you log off, so every time you return, your crops are fully grown and ready to harvest, rewarding you instantly without any need for grinding. However, the real secret behind Grow a Garden's success lies in the psychological tricks they use. Every 5 minutes, the global shop refreshes, and sometimes it drops a seed so rare, it has a 0.005% chance of appearing. Statistically, it only appears once every 20,000 restocks. So when the shop restocks, tens of thousands of players rush to it at the exact same time, hoping they're the lucky ones to see it. That's because everything in this game is built to trigger FOMO, the fear of missing out. Random events like rain, meteors, moonlight, and blood moons can boost your crops at any moment, and suddenly every 5 minutes feels like a reason to stay. Even when you log off, the game pulls you back and tells you something rare might be around the corner. And when you do leave, you come back to a fully grown garden. There have been many games that use different strategies to hook players, but Grow a Garden has incorporated almost all of them into a single game. It's easy to see why the game exploded. With no steep learning curve and no time commitment required, anyone can play it. And that's the trap. It's mobile friendly and brain dead simple. Players even went as far as creating Discord stock alert bots and auto buy macros that let them snatch rare seeds from the shop faster than normal players can even open it. These rare fruits are then flipped on shady Discord servers and black markets for Robux, gift cards, and in some cases, real-world money. Since Dubig Studio purchased a small portion of the game, monetization has only increased, so the worst might still be coming. But while Grow a Garden rewards players for doing almost nothing, Combat Initiation stands as the complete opposite. Released on May 27, 2023, Combat Initiation is a wave-based movement shooter developed by Windforce Interactive, a small indie team that built one of the most mechanically advanced games on Roblox, and yet it often gets overlooked. Despite being praised by many for its combat in depth and ultra-kill inspired movement system, the game never broke into the mainstream, and that's because it refuses to use manipulative strategies that other games rely on. From the moment you load in, it throws you straight into chaos, and from that point on, survival becomes your only objective. You start each level with a primary and secondary weapon, fighting through brutal waves of enemies before facing a boss that tests every skill you've learned. But this isn't your average movement shooter. Instead, it's a test of creative, high-skill combat. Each weapon comes with its own learning curve, and between levels, you're sent to a shop where you can spend your earned tickets to upgrade your weapons and build your own playstyle. But what makes Combat Initiation stand out is how balanced everything is. Everything is earned through gameplay, and because of that, the gameplay is completely skill-based. But even with all that, the game never had the spotlight it deserved. It rarely appears on the front page, and with 32 million visits to date, it's mostly overlooked compared to other mainstream games. And yet, the people who do play it genuinely love it. As one fan stated, "This is what Roblox felt like in 2012, before the slot machine games." While Combat Initiation might be one of the most underrated games on the platform, there are plenty of other games that could easily fall into either category. But one thing remains clear: it's the community that decides which game they love or hate. If you're curious about which games are most loved or hated, click this video on screen to find out.